in this video, I want to walk you through how you verify that a significantly larger financial report is a properly functioning logical system. So this is the part of the build-up here. Ultimately, I'm going to go all the way up to the Microsoft 10K, or basically any other 10K financial report submitted to the SEC. This is an incremental step in getting there. So again, in the past, I walked through the accounting equation, SFAC 6, and others to prove how to verify that a logical system is properly functioning. I went through the proof, which has all the information model patterns in it. I went through a small financial report that showed it's easy to get your head around because you can see the pieces. There's only 5 pieces, and you can verify that that is working correctly. What this does is it adds a significantly larger report, but it's still controlled. I'm not using the US GAAP taxonomy or the IFRS taxonomy because they have issues. You can overcome those issues. I'm using my own reporting scheme that I created in order to create a rock solid financial report and prove proactively that the report is created correctly. So this report has 57 tables in it, 57 networks and 57 tables. It has 138 separate structures of information. Okay, so the Microsoft 10K has 194 structures, and I think it had 124 networks. So one of the advantages of the report that I'm working in here is that I put every one of the information model patterns that you would ever run up against into this report, so that they're having to work together correctly, so you can prove that they're represented correctly because you get the correct result. So if you're working with the Microsoft report and testing it, there are many information patterns that they don't have in the report. Therefore, you can't use that report to prove that you are covering, you're representing a report correctly, because you may, I'm not going to go down that path. But anyway, so this report, so again, if we go to start backwards at the reporting checklist, I have 55 different disclosures that this report has, and I'm basically, I created a 1-to-1 correlation between the reporting scheme that I'm using and the report that I'm preparing in order to test to make sure that the reporting scheme is working correctly and that the report is working correctly. So I actually have something that is not working correctly, which is this right here, this business segment information. So there's a known mistake. I haven't corrected it yet, but that's why this is grayed out. But basically, there's 100% correlation between the reporting scheme and the report. And that tests the report to make sure that the report is working correctly. It tests the reporting scheme to make sure that the reporting scheme is working correctly. And it makes sure that all of the information models in the report and reporting scheme have been reflected correctly so that they do in fact work when you create a report. And basically, I'm doing some very rigorous testing And it's not about volume. If I could have one roll up and that would test the capability of this application to represent and verify a roll up correctly. Adding 30 more roll ups does not help that process. So, the Microsoft 10K has literally 30 some odd roll ups. So you can actually reduce the size of what you're testing as long as you're very precise about and complete about what you're including in your testing scheme to make sure you're covering all the things that you need to test to verify that everything is working correctly. So here, again, the point is that we have a lot of different pieces. And all this is working correctly. This one is being ignored. Just forget about that one for now. So working backward, this disclosure mechanics, these rules describe what these disclosures look like. So that's the next step, going backwards. So here we have, let's go to something really simple, document information. This describes what the document information disclosure looks like. It always uses the document information hypercube. It is always a set or hierarchy. This is the old version. We now call this a set. And it always has this required concept, the document title. This is in the report. One place. It is within a hierarchy, and it is within the table, document information table, and that is why this line of reasoning can conclude that this disclosure is in this report, and therefore it is verified to exist and it meets this requirement of this disclosure rule. So that's how all of these things interact. Okay, so it works the same for every one of these disclosures. They're just different rules. Here's a disclosure that is a roll-up, and here's the text block information and the policy and the level 1 note text block information, and all of these work exactly the same way. So if you go to the report, one of the things that you'll notice, let's go to, that's fine. So here, financial highlights. This is known to be the financial highlights disclosure. The application found this and assigned this disclosure description to this structure per those disclosure rules. So here, let's see. There's the rules that describe what this disclosure would look like, and the application assigned that disclosure. It found that this block or structure met those requirements, and it gave it a name and then made sure that everything was working correctly. And it did this for all 138 different disclosures. Okay? In addition, these fundamental accounting concept relations, I don't have a whole lot of them in this reporting scheme. There are no inconsistencies within the report. It checks to make sure that you don't say something in one structure and then say something different in another structure. So that's what these rules do. They prevent contradictions. It did the type class checks to make sure, for example, that you are not using receivables net non-current as a current asset. You can't do that because it is a non-current asset. You cannot use it as a current asset. That's what these type class validations do. The model structure validation rules, you see, it has relationships between the parent, network table, access, member, line items, etc., and the child. And you have to use the correct representation. So here, you cannot use a member down here as an abstract concept to then hook these other concepts too, which is a mistake that many SEC filers make. That's the purpose of this set of rules. And then the XBRL syntax rules, very few people make these mistakes because they're all 100% automated in every XBRL processor, because there's a conformance suite that XBRL International publishes. All I'm doing is I'm creating a conformance suite, and it's based on my professional knowledge of what a financial report looks like. And if someone comes to me and says, hey, your rules are wrong, fine, I'll change the rules. But they're typically not wrong. And what I have here for this demonstration reporting scheme, it's the same. I have the same thing for IFRS and US GAAP. They're not as comprehensive because there's a lot of disclosures for US GAAP and IFRS. The point of what I'm doing here is not to say that I'm going to create all those things. My point is I'm trying to figure out what it is you have to create to make sure that you can have reliable processes that verify that not some of the pieces of a report, basically all of the pieces of a report, are properly functioning logical systems. So I'm going to call that good for this video, and I'm still not getting it exactly the way that I want to show it. I will have some conversations with some people, and then I'll try and improve upon this. Anyway, I'll see you in another video.